Okay. Thank you, Marianne.
Um,
Do you got any questions en anglais ou en français?
Ok, c'est merci.
Mhm.
Je suis pas sûre que j'ai compris votre nom.
Ah, c'est Ron. Donc, les gens, quand ils sont fâchés avec moi, ils vont dire Ronald.
Ok.
Viens là. Mais je préfère Ron, c'est R-O-N. Mon nom de famille, c'est Maurice, M-O-2-R-I-S.
Ok, merci.
Comme Philippe, aucun lien.
Ok, merci.
maybe before we dive into the questions, just a quick remark. We are able to answer on the content part pretty deeply. So if you have questions about or doubts about what we're going to say about the content, the classes, the time span in terms of, you know, how long the classes last, we can answer very easily. In terms of logistics, you know, the schedule, when it's going to happen exactly during in fall. These questions can be answered by IFG, and I guess Emmanuel has a few ideas, so that it's clear that we appear here just to answer those questions and about content.
Mm-hmm. I think we should present the program. We're going to present the opportunity, and then we can have a discussion. We can have a discussion about our experience and your questions. Does that sound good to you guys? Is that okay?
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's do it because it'll be easier, I think, with the slides. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Or am I sharing my screen? Can you see that?
No.
Not
yet. Not yet.
Marianne, can you see the first slide?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So I need to, sorry. Here we go.
Okay.
So I think we started a little bit with who we are. Marianne, would you, well, I'll give a little context just on the campus itself. Our physical campus opened in 2016. So as you know, IFG is an important school in the insect group. IFG is our executive education school. And InsectU has 16 schools, over 23,000 students. And we opened this campus to focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. So all of our programs are focused on that. And I guess I would add to that creativity. So innovation, entrepreneurship, creativity. Innovation means many things. It can be technological, it can be business innovation, but I think Marianne will be speaking more about that in terms of our program. So, excuse me?
I've just joined you right now. I was looking for the class, that's why. Sorry to disturb.
Okay, okay, good. Welcome. Is
Thank
that c'est bon?
C'est bon.
Yes.
Wait. Well, welcome to the presentation. We're just getting started. So so as I said before, we focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. So now on to the interesting part. Marianne.
So business innovation is one of the fields that we're interested in, and it's composed of different aspects. So when we introduce our participants to business innovation, what does it entail? Here you can see. First, one of the first components is business methods. So we have a very practical, very hands-on way of doing things, which is that our pedagogy is really onto, you know, the experience of the business methodology. So you get to experience different methods to become more creative in general. So we're talking about creativity as being a major element. This is true. We identify opportunities. So we are in the process of what we call ideation, right? Ideation means how to come up with good ideas in terms of businesses, in terms of startups, any kind of project. So you identify the opportunities of growing your business through different projects. You also learn how to pivot. Pivot means change, adapt. So you learn agility. You learn to be agile, to really jump on the opportunities that you see. Our methods, you'll see after, are lean startup, design thinking, etc. Through all those methods, you learn all those skills that are listed here. Our business innovation programs are also a way for you to grow your professional mindset, which means different things. In Silicon Valley, having a professional mindset means first thinking big. It means that you're not limited in your thinking. You always have to think further. You have to project your project your ideas internationally, not be limited neither geographically or psychologically or anything. So that's something that we teach you also in our programs. Networking, also big thing. In French, we would translate it into réseautage, which is a word that I'm not very fond of. But networking is the way of working through collaboration. In our Francophone culture, we're not very fond of that. We don't really know how to do it. But here you'll see that in Silicon Valley, the Silicon Valley company culture is really relying on that idea of building collaboration, of exchanging ideas between people and between professionals. So as a result, communication is key. We here rely on communication to exchange about projects, to present our projects, and there's a very strict nomenclature. There are norms that you have to follow to be able to present effectively. And there's one of those ways, which is called pitching, that you've probably heard of. How to pitch your project, how to pitch yourself to potential investors, collaborators, etc., etc. And also one of the big things is to embrace failure, which means accept that you can fail and that success is also sometimes the accomplishment of a trajectory that has gone through failure. Also, because you're all managers, we think it's very important for you to hone your management skills, which means understanding the very peculiar, atypical Silicon Valley company culture, which is more horizontal, which is, as I said earlier, relying on collaboration. It's also a new way of thinking about leadership. What kind of leader what kind of leader do you meet in Silicon Valley? People here are different, and their vision of leadership is totally different from what you can see in the rest of the world. And I think there are many things that we can learn in that sense, especially in terms of inclusion and diversity. What does it mean in Silicon Valley to be inclusive in terms of people who are different in their sexual identity, in their in gender, in all kinds of things. As you'll see after, Silicon Valley is very different in the sense that it's a very diverse ecosystem. Knowledge is also our hardcore component for the program, which means that we deliver methods, of course, ways of doing things, skills, but we also give the dry content that's knowledge. So things that are intangible, but yet very important. So tech trends, you learn about tech trends, what is happening in the field of technology that's gonna enlighten our future. These are the things that we'll see here, for instance, what's the evolution of artificial intelligence, what's happening in robotics, what's happening in different types of fields that concern technology. Everything here that we say about technology can be seen in a broader sense. So the future of technology is also what's going to change the future of work. What is our professional future? How is technology gonna enlighten or, you know, transform our future as professionals? This is what we're gonna see. But, you know, the changes are not just technological, they're also human, they're also, you know, in terms of management, as we said earlier, etc., etc. So the future of work is an essential component. We'll see the prospect of it. When we talk about the future of work, it's one of the component of the future of society. So we'll see how our society is going to evolve. And you know that Silicon Valley in many ways is well ahead in terms of all those thoughts and projects. So if we have a look and we discuss with experts from Silicon Valley, we get an insight on what's going to happen, which is pretty interesting. And that can enlighten, of course, your futures as professionals in your companies. All in all, we are trying to answer the question, which is, what is Silicon Valley as a whole? We're going to try to crack the code of this mysterious yet so internationally renowned place.
That's a lot. That's a lot, but those are components that go into the program. I'd like to add something that's important to us on this campus is that we're not showing you the way to innovate or the way to start a company. We're showing you one way, the Silicon Valley way.
Yeah.
And it's not copy and paste. It doesn't mean everything here is for everyone else around the world, but it is an amazing exercise to look at how people work here. And there is, you know, as Marianne said, we're showing you a methodology. It could be for lean startup or design thinking, or it could be some of the approaches and also the mindset and all of these things. It is a very exciting ecosystem. It's a place where over 90% of the startups fail. So as Marianne said, failure is part of the process here. And it's part of the learning process. So we're going to be showing you one way. And I think it's a very exciting way, but we're not telling you this is the way. The second thing is that this is not just for entrepreneurs. This is for managers. This is for anyone who wants to be driving innovation in your organization or in your company. And if you're not innovating, you're going to die. So we feel as though it's for everyone. People who want to start new ventures, people who want to be driving innovation in their companies. So.
You made a very good point on the importance of having a view, a perspective that's really international and that's very, you know, inclusive of all kinds of point of view. Really, we ourselves, as we said earlier, really looking into, we have different types of experience internationally speaking, and we're very happy to be able to work with you guys, people who are coming from all kinds of horizons. So it's very important for us to show a perspective of Silicon Valley, but not with the idea that it's something that is better. There's no kind of, you know, ethical value of it, or, you know, there's no superiority. It's just that it's interesting to crack the recipe of it because it's working. So there are probably things that we can take away from the experience and then apply to our own professional lives. Just diving into Silicon Valley, I was talking about that recipe, of the fact that it's so successful and it's so valuable. But actually, you know, we're always talking about technology, we're talking about startups, etc. And it's the real world, it's the real component of Silicon Valley. That's why success comes out of Silicon Valley. But actually, you know what? One of the first ingredients for its success is its population, the people here. Nothing would be done without the amazing talents that we see here. And the population is so rich and so talented because of its diversity. So without going too much into details, you'll see here different types of numbers and features that show you the richness, the diversity of the population. But just a few words saying that we are in an area that's very populated with many foreigners. Many come from abroad, many come from India, from Asia, from all around the world to, fuel the talent that's working in the tech industry.
Can I say something without becoming too political? But I can't resist. I have to say this. I don't know if any of you have seen our current president's recent decision about immigration. I don't say his name. It's like Voldemort from Harry Potter, right? So his recent decision was about the H-1B1 visas. So for highly skilled people coming to the US, they can, companies in the US can say, I need somebody who can do that. And it can be a reason to give a work visa. So the current president has said no to those visas, and that will give more jobs to Americans. As you can imagine, Silicon Valley is the first place to speak up and say, no, we need these visas because we're about innovation, we're about finding talent anywhere in the world, and we don't want that kind of restriction. So that type of closed borders, it makes Silicon Valley go crazy. It's really, it's the exact opposite of what Silicon Valley is doing.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that goes back to the feud there's always been between Donald Trump, our president, and Silicon Valley. There's always been that kind of gap, and as you see here, it's noted on the list. But tech workers mainly come from outside of the U.S. There's a shortage in terms of employment, so it's not just a choice that Silicon Valley is making. They're really lacking workforce. So they're looking into engineers coming from all over the world because there's so many opportunities, job opportunities, that it's important for them, if not essential, that they find that workforce everywhere else also, not just in the US. And that population, that diversity, those waves of immigration from all over again are the ones that are the basis of that flourishing economy that we see here. So we see startups popping up every month. I mean, I saw a number. I don't know if it's true, but I saw a number that was written in an article 2 days ago. They were talking about 50 startups opening up every month in the Bay Area. Seems like an incredible number. I can't even believe that it's so high. So, but anyway, what's sure is that we see here 9,000 companies, of which we count 3,000 startups, which is a huge number in an area that, as you see on the map. Yes?
Or is it me?
Sorry?
I think we're frozen.
Can you hear me, guys? Thumbs up if you hear me.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Ron, I think it's your network that's not working somehow. Oops. Did we lose Ron? Okay. So just moving on. So what I was saying is that we see on the map that the restricted area that is Silicon Valley. So here, if you look at the map on your left, so I'm gonna share my screen. Sorry for the challenge. It's pretty ironic. We're in Silicon Valley, right? But our network sometimes lacks. It's not always the best, unfortunately. So let me see how I can share my screen. 1 second. Yep, here it is, share. And starting from here. Do you see what I see?
Yes.
Yes. So, oops. Slideshow. Play from current slide. Yes. So here we were. And yeah, so on the left, you see a map that's representing the Bay Area. Silicon Valley originally, look at my mouse, is based here where it says peninsula, right?
Thank you, Marianne. I crashed.
Yeah, I saw that. No worries. So I shared my screen. So
Awesome.
we're so Silicon Valley originally was considered as just the south of the bay, where it says peninsula, and Palo Alto here. It would be kind of the capital of Silicon Valley. But now, you know, for many reasons, it has expanded and it covers more or less all this area, you know, so including what we call the East Bay, where you find UC Berkeley open. So it's a big area, very populated, and it's been at the forefront of all innovation waves, you know, from, you know, internet, well, I mean, the microchips, internet, the social media, etc. Everything that's happening in terms of technology, all the innovations come from there, from one reason or the other. And it's responsible for all kinds of new ideas. As you see, 80% almost of all patents are coming from there. Half of the investments that are done nationwide are done in Silicon Valley, etc., etc. So it's a flourishing, atypical area that's really worth studying closely. And moving on. Yes, sorry.
I'm very proud of the program that that Marianne and I have worked on, and from all of what Marianne just said, the amazing thing is the Silicon Valley experts we can introduce you to, and we're really going to focus not just on the program, not just on the content, but really who are these people that you will be able to meet and to work with. And that's the special opportunity of having a campus here in Silicon Valley.
Exactly. So to dive into the program, exactly on the precise components of it, just going through very quickly on the benefits that you'll get through the online program. So you've probably heard of it, you know about it. You'll get an international certificate at the end of the program. One of the requirements we have to be able to give you that certificate is attendance, which means that you have to participate to all the workshops / classes that we organize. And in exchange of a good attendance, you'll get that international certificate that will testify to all the components and all the new skills that you got. One of the big advantages, of course, of this program is flexibility, in the sense that, you know, you're used, many of you, I guess, are used to the 100% online program through your MBA. It's going to be the same. That has the same flexibility, which means that, you know, through online learning, you don't have to go anywhere else than just be in front of your computer. Interaction for us is key. This is a main component that we're really fond of. We talked about before practical learning, which is actually the point that's right after learn by doing. We have a practical approach, which means that we can't do without interaction. So our workshops, which means in French, atelier, it's a very important word. It's not just a typical class. These workshops that we have, because we have many of them, are based on that interaction, constant interaction between your coach and yourselves, between you in your teams, because you'll form teams, and your instructor. Very important. So that involves the idea of collaboration. So you'll have to work within teams on your projects. on your presentation. We have one, and it's very important for us because it's part of how Silicon Valley does things, and not just academically, professionally speaking. As Ron mentioned before, you'll meet experts. So all our instructors are not professors, they are experts. So they're working in the fields of whatever they're gonna show you. Our design thinking instructor is a design thinker, of course, and he works on a daily basis on his methods with different companies. And it's a very important thing to underline. Why? Because these experts that we have, actually, they do it as a pleasure. I mean, you know, for them, being able to educate people towards their field of expertise is a major plus. So you can rely on their human and, I would say, nice way of empathizing with their participants. So count on a very good interaction and collaboration with them. Everything that we are teaching is always project-based. I've said it earlier, so I repeat it here. It's key. You'll have one presentation to do at the end of the program. That's going to be I would say, the exclamation point of the program. It's our way of seeing what you've understood, what you've taken as insights for your professional / personal futures. And it's a nice project because you put everything together, you draw your conclusions on what you learned, and that's it's the biggest project. You'll have other ones in your other classes, for instance, in probably in design thinking, I guess. I mean, there are different projects, sub-projects, but the main one is that presentation at the end. We can talk about it a bit after if you have questions on the precise components of that presentation. Moving on. So one of the key points, one of the key components, as we said before, of the program are the business methods. And those business methods that I talked about before are the ones that you get access to through 3 different classes, which are listed here below. Introduction to Lean Startup, Design Thinking, and last but not least, growth hacking and digital strategies for corporate and personal branding. So first one, oops, here, Introduction to Lean is a key workshop. So Lean Startup methodology, I don't know if you are familiar with that concept. It's not actually a concept, it's more a method. More tangible.
I would ask another question. Maybe somebody here has read the book by Eric Ries.
Are you talking about lean management?
No, lean management is kind of a subset coming from the lean movement, which started actually in software development, and then they saw how it could be applied in terms of business innovation. And Eric Ries worked on this in Silicon Valley and did some of his research through Stanford University. And he wrote this book, I think it's about 8 years ago now, and it's one of the bestsellers in business books in the past decade. Mm. It is, and we're lucky to have a lecturer who worked with Eric Ries. His name is Ryan McCarrigan, and he worked with Eric at the very beginning, and he's been doing workshops and also coaching and consulting for corporations around the world since then. And so he's one of the 2 people we have who are experts in this. Yeah. So anyone else familiar with because lean is like kind of like a toolbox. There are many different components. There are many different aspects.
I know lean manufacturing on my side.
Ah, yes.
But I think you are talking more global.
Well, I think was something that has inspired lean startup in lean management because of, coming from Toyota,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And those concepts. So that's something that our lecturers speak about a little bit, about that component and how it has led to lean as we know it for innovation and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Exactly. So the idea, of course, it has different ramifications, but the idea basically is to introduce you to the idea of how to leverage a good business project that's efficient, not so costly, and quick. So these are the main ideas. And so that class, which is very interactive again, very project-based, is introduced to you by either Ryan McCarrigan or Tobias Trouble. So Ryan, as we said, he's been introduced to lean since the beginning, because as Ron said, he accompanied Eric Ries on his journey since the beginning. And he's a Columbia University alumnus. He's the founder of a consultancy here in San Francisco, which is called Lean Studio. So he works on leveraging business strategies with all kinds of companies, be them startups or big companies, corporate companies. Tobias is very savvy on those same methods. He has a different background. He's a doctor in aerospace engineering. He's German, but he's lived in the Bay Area for a long time already. And he has that kind of double identity. He's got that technical aspect through engineering, but he's also worked in the business field quite much, because he was affiliated to Business Models Inc., which is a company that accelerates innovation and entrepreneurship through strategy design. And he just launched his own consultancy a couple of months ago. So very savvy guys in that field.
Marianne, I was out for a moment. I don't know if you mentioned this, sorry if you did, but this presentation, all of the names, they're links. So you can go to their LinkedIn and you can see who these people are. So if you're interested in knowing more, there's that. We'll be sharing this presentation with you.
And by the way, on the first slide where we were introducing ourselves, you saw our pictures, nice pictures. And on the bottom, there were links with our names. These are our emails. So if you want to click on them, you can directly send us emails if you have any more questions or doubts or anything you want to talk about. So moving on, design thinking is also a key class. It's a course that I think you've been introduced to the idea of design thinking, right? Through different classes. It's been at least mentioned, right? Do you agree? Yeah. So design thinking is a course that provides a methodology that's really surrounds the idea of empathy. So empathy is how you actually relate to your potential customer, potential user. How do you understand their needs? How do you respond to those needs? So it seems like a very easy method. It's an easy idea when you think about it, but actually it's more complex when you put it into practice, as you'll see. It's key, it's super relevant, though you need practice to understand it fully. So a very interesting method that's presented by John Stoddard. He's our, I would say, king in design thinking. He's our English gentleman also, I would say. He comes from England initially, but he's been here for countless years. He's worked as lead designer for IDEO, which is, I think you know, an important company that's at the root of design thinking itself. So John works as a consultant and lecturer. And he also accompanies many startups on their design thinking strategies in Silicon Valley. So he's very passionate about that.
Mm-hmm. And he has all kinds of incredible stories to tell, from projects that he worked on for Apple, for Samsung. So it's really about the practical side, as Marianne said before, the practical side. How do you implement design thinking, right? So he'll speak to you about some of the basics, but also speak to you about the reality of design thinking.
Exactly. And last but not least, growth hacking and digital strategies for corporate and personal branding. So this is here a class on how to leverage your digital visibility. So if you have a startup, if you're working for a corporate company, you need to understand how to maneuver your digital visibility, how to leverage it, how to grow it. And Andreas Ramos, who's the instructor, gives you all the tools, very practical again, to understand how to do that. So he gives you, in a way, recipes to gain more visibility on your websites, etc., etc. So, and Andreas Ramos is very savvy on that field. He's been, can I say that? He's not here. He's kind of a dinosaur in Silicon Valley, which is much to say. He's been here since the beginning. How can you tell that? Because of his email address, for instance. His email address is andreas@andreas.com. So, you know, if you have just your first name as an email address, it gives you an idea of how long he's been in the field. So he started you know, with Silicon Valley and grew with it. So Andreas is an ex-manager of global SEO, which means search engine optimization. In French, we would say I forgot the word. How do you say that?
Search.
Yeah. Anyway, SEO. Référencement, voilà, référencement. And so he worked as a global SEO at Cisco. He's a lecturer. He's a specialist in digital marketing, SEO and SEM, which means search engine marketing. And he's the author of 16 books. So very passionate on this and on, you know, being able to teach it and convert the masses to his credo. And so this is about the business methods, and moving on to the mindset, what we were talking about earlier. How do we dissect this very peculiar Silicon Valley mindset? Through different perspectives and classes. The first one being Silicon Valley ecosystem, the second one pitching, innovation mindset, and startup founder series. So let's dive into that. The first one, Silicon Valley ecosystem, is about innovation. It's understanding the panorama of what's happening in Silicon Valley. Who are the main actors? What kind of dynamics relate them? What kind of mindset do they have? Everything we touched upon a bit earlier, but in a more profound and detailed way. Your instructor for this class is Lena Schultz. She's, I think, the perfect interlocutor you can have for that kind of class. Lena Schultz is Danish. She's a former engineer. She's European, but she's lived in the Bay Area for 15 years. She arrived when she was in her 20s, and she's grown here, and her professional career has been based here. She's worked for those years connecting Europe to the US in terms of investments, finding opportunities, both sides. And she's co-founded different organizations, one of them being the Nordic Innovation Lab. She also co-founded Deloitte Nordic Labs. She's worked with many startups, and I want to mention one of them in particular because I think it's going to be interesting to many of you. She's worked for, and she still works for, a very interesting startup that is called Blue Town. And their focus is on providing digital inclusion to many countries, such as many countries in Africa. So very interesting project, a very humane, altruistic project that she's working on.
And she recently managed a deal with Microsoft. So now Microsoft is behind Bluetown. And that's a great story to talk to her about, like, how do you broker these deals? How do you create these collaborations between startups and large corporations?
Exactly.
And so very impressive.
And it's also interesting because that project that she's leading, it goes in so many directions. She's working also with women in Africa, you know, to give them the opportunity to get access to internet, you know, so that there's that kind of social component to it, which is really beautiful. And as we see here on the slide, very important motto, Silicon Valley is a mindset, not a location. So that's what we're trying to understand here through that class. Pitching, we talked about the importance of communication in Silicon Valley, and it all relies on pitching, your pitching abilities. What does pitching mean? Pitching is how to present in a very short and efficient way who you are, what you work for. And this is very important because, you know, that's the way people relate to investors in many ways. They have to pitch, they have a couple of minutes, what we call the elevator pitch, which doesn't last long. So in a few minutes, in 2 minutes, you have to, you know, have the ability to present who you are and be effective and be able to raise money. So pitching is something that's important, and not just for, you know, in your relationship with investors. It's very important here in many, many ways, because as we said, networking is key. So pitching, the pitching class is a way to understand the elevator pitch that I was talking about and how to present your project as a whole. And for that class, we have different instructors. The first one being Nathan Gold. If you click on that link, you'll get access directly to his website, which is Demo Coach. So his whole career and passion revolves around the idea of giving people the tools and the ability to communicate better. And as we know, it's not easy. I'm the first one to say so. It's a difficult exercise. He's very savvy on that, and he works internationally with all kinds of people, not just here in the US. Sophie Lawson is also a brilliant communicator. She is a passionate ESL, which means English as a second language coach for entrepreneurs and business people. She originates from the region. She did her study at UC Berkeley, which is a major university, as you know. And so she works she's very passionate about transmission and being able to, you know, about education, that kind of, and she's very skilled at it also.
I think one of the things that both of these people do, because there are many components to pitching and presenting, but one of the things that they do is they really introduce you to the Silicon Valley way, which is about narrative, which means storytelling. And so how can you tell a story about your business, and how can you tell a story about your project to get other people excited? And so that's a fun and I think very useful exercise coming from Silicon Valley.
Exactly. And last but not least, the Startup Founder Series. So of course, to understand the mindset of Silicon Valley, you have to meet you know, those entrepreneurs, that kind of mysterious breed that we were talking about, that's living here in this ecosystem. And so we provide that exceptional experience of being able to relate to these people. So you're gonna have testimonials. They're gonna exchange with you, discuss with you what it is to be, maybe, you know, as we said, many are foreigners. So to be a foreigner in Silicon Valley, maybe how to grow your startup, what it is like, you know, so it's a testimonial. You'll get that opportunity. Even for online,
we have-
we're building those bridges.
We try to have a wide variety. We have had at least 2 of our startups that come to talk are founders and CEOs who have taken their startups to IPO, which is initial public offering, or entrée en bourse. So we've got tremendous success stories, but they also have failures that they talk about. Like the times in the funny thing is, when you talk to these people, they love talking about their failures more than their success. It's kind of like, that's what they're proud of. Like, I had a failure, here's what I learned. And then I went off and did something else and succeeded. And we try to also bring in some people who are in the middle of it. That means they're in the process of the startup, not just a success story after they've finished, but people who are in the process.
Yeah. And something that we didn't mention here, but we might also provide encounters with people who are working for corporate companies also. So, for instance, not so long ago, we had someone working at Google exchanging with our students. So it's also, that kind of conversation is also very informative and insightful.
And they, Google, you won't get it on Zoom. We're going to use Google. We're going to use Google Meeting because when they present to our groups, they're like, no, we don't use Zoom.
We should propose maybe Facebook,
Yeah.
the Facebook platform, that.
Yeah.
How they react.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, last component, knowledge. And what can we learn? What can we learn about technology, about, a bit more, dive more into technology, and also investment, how to raise funds, how does it work, because it's a big challenge. I mean, it's the secret sauce if you're able to raise funds in Silicon Valley. So let's try to crack that code also. So Managing Moonshots is a class that gives you a look at what the future entails in terms of technology. And for that class, I think we have one of the best people to share with you. His name is Mark Bunger. He's a technology analyst and entrepreneur. He's a guest lecturer at UC Berkeley, expert on AI innovation, which means artificial intelligence. He works for Innovation Lab, which is a technology innovation consultancy. And yeah, he's passionate about, looking at the big picture of the future of technology. And Financing Innovation is a class that, as the title shows, is about the secrets of fundraising. So how do people talk to investors? Well, the best way to learn about that is to talk directly to an investor. And our instructor here is Jonathan Baer. He's a former VC. VC means venture capitalist. Sorry for the accent. That word is really very hard for me to pronounce always. Un ancien investisseur. So a key actor in Silicon Valley. He's an author also, and he gives you very interesting insights on how financing innovation works in Silicon Valley, which gives you insights on how to do it elsewhere also. On the management skills, innovation mindset and leadership, very important also. The idea of how to leverage innovation in terms of management. This is something we talked about. How does leadership works in Silicon Valley? This class is presented by Juan Carlos Velten. He likes to be called JC Velten. He's originally from Mexico. He gained his MBA from a major university, Ivy League university. I don't remember which one all of a sudden.
It was Harvard.
Harvard. He is a serial, not killer, but entrepreneur. So he's founded different companies, one of which was incredibly successful. He got a big investment, and he now works for different institutions. So he works at Stanford as a lecturer, and he mainly focuses on the idea of branding. So with two different ramifications. One is personal branding, and the other one is what he calls rapid branding. So that's something that he teaches very often, and he also works as Mark Berger for an innovation lab, that technology innovation consultancy I was talking about before. So a very, very good and very skilled speaker. And so that's all I wanted to share about the program itself. Maybe a small break for you to ask questions if you want more details on the content.
No, it's clear. It's clear on my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolas. You can ask questions in French and we can respond in French also if you want, and there's no problem.
Questions, but not about the content, about the organization and the travel.
Sure. So maybe we can finish about a few ideas on the online learning. It's not going to be, I know that you have hard stops, so we're going to be very quick on this. Online learning, we already talked about collaborative learning, very important. So you work in teams during class, after class also. Everything is about honing your soft skills, as we said earlier. This is a repetition, so I'll go quickly. And final team pitches. So during the last day, you'll have to present with your teams your final thoughts, I would say. And for that exercise, you'll have the entire span to prepare it. You'll have the entire span of the 2 weeks, because the program is going to be during 2 weeks. So, and you'll have at the end an oral presentation with slides that you'll share about your findings, etc., etc. So, very important. And at the end, as we said, international certificate. As you see here, that's the way it normally goes when you are on campus. So last day, that kind of exclamation mark, that for us, you don't see it here because we're pretty tense on the picture, but it's normally a very joyful moment. It's a nice moment for us, and I think we can totally recreate it online. So after the final pitches, you get the certificate, which is, as you see, a long text with a list of all the classes and the skills that you've obtained through the program. And the learning process, about the logistics very quickly. So our classes try to match the difference, the time difference and your priorities. So because of the different time zones, we have to hold the classes very early for us in the morning, which would be translates into later hours in the afternoon, evening. So that means from 6 p.m. after you're finished working to maximum 9 p.m. Central European Time, Paris time, from Mondays to Fridays. What do we use to be connected? 3 different methods. Zoom, of course, you're very familiar with it. That's something that you use on a weekly basis for your conferences for IFG. You do exactly the same. And also something a bit different, maybe you're familiar with it. It's an application that you can see here on the left, the big image, Slack. Slack is a platform that's originally from San Francisco. It's the startup from San Francisco, and we use it here professionally very often for instantaneous messaging. So you see here how it works, different channels, you'll have your own channel, and we can, as you see, we can post different, information, we can post links to content, etc. etc. It's very handy. And last but not least, standard communication.
I think we can.
Right. That's it for me. I give you the floor for questions and any kind of comment that you want to make.
Thank you, Marianne. That was just such a great presentation. I want to reinforce that, it was a long presentation because we feel as though that, you deserve to have all the detail possible about this kind of presentation. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
Good job.
I have a question regarding the duration, because on your last slide, it was written from Mondays to Fridays. So means that it will last several weeks?
Thank you, Gail, for the question. So it's going to be a span of 2 weeks. We'll have the program over 2 weeks. Which means that you'll have different classes a week, not automatically every day, but you'll have different classes organized during those 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So the way we've designed it with IFG and according to your schedule is that you cannot have the same intensity as when you're in San Francisco, right? Because of the Zoom experience, for many reasons. We want it to meet, but we want to keep a strong identity. So instead of having, maybe 6 hours of classes in San Francisco, it's going to be 3 per day, but for 2 weeks. And it'll give you, I think, a little bit more time to work on your project, which you present at the end as well, your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, please. So thank you for your clear presentation. I already had the chance and the opportunity to travel many times to San Francisco and the Silicon Valley. So I know it's not the same to be behind the screen and to be in play. I'm talking for myself. I'm not interested in a remote class. I really want to participate and travel to San Francisco. I know this year is going to be very difficult, but do you think next year, January or February, is going to be possible to travel?
It's a very good question, Leon. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I was going to say, Leon, I don't know if you were on at the beginning, but I mean, one thing I said at the beginning is, we want to be back to normal as fast as possible and as soon as we can. And that takes into consideration several things: that we have authorization to be in the building with a large group of people. That takes into consideration that we feel confident about travel, not only coming, but leaving.
Yes.
Because we had a group of students who were in San Francisco in March, and they all had to go home early, and it was very complicated. So we have to be confident that the conditions are good. To answer your question, I can't answer your question.
Okay.
I really can't. I think that we're gonna try to do it as soon as we can. And when we say we're gonna do it, there could be a surprise. There could be 1 week before or 1 day before San Francisco says stop. Because if there's a problem with the coronavirus.
Yes.
They'll go into lockdown. So we can't control that. Until we have a vaccine, we cannot control that. The one thing that we can control is this. We know we can do this. So I've been to Las Vegas many times, but I don't bet. I don't put my money on the table. I would not. I don't feel confident giving you an answer. You know, especially, I think the closer we get, there are schools in the United States, they're still waiting to say what they're going to do in September. The more we wait, the more we know. I think in September, we will know more. It
Okay.
doesn't mean we'll be 100% sure, but we'll be able to give you a better answer.
Okay, and if we suppose to take it remotely, what about the price? It's going to be the same price or?
So
No, we'll let Emmanuel maybe.
Allô? Oui, vous m'entendez bien?
Oui.
Elle peut répondre.
Oui, je vais apporter une précision. Je voulais juste d'abord remercier Marianne, effectivement, pour cette très belle présentation et surtout très claire. Et ça m'a replongé 3 ans en arrière puisque moi, j'ai eu la chance de venir sur le site de San Francisco et sur le campus. Donc, merci pour tous ces beaux souvenirs. Mis à part ça…
Tu pourras les revivre bientôt.
J'espère, je ne sais pas, mais j'espère en tout cas pour tout le monde, mais en tout cas pour répondre précisément à Léon et la question, je pense, vous êtes d'autres à la poser, c'est-à-dire que nous avons bien sûr envisagé une réduction sur le prix de votre formation à l'IFG. Le coût de cette réduction, ce sera 1 000 €, donc qui seront bien évidemment déductibles du coût de votre formation. Tout cela sera géré en interne à l'IFG. Si vous avez validé ce séminaire à distance, eh bien, effectivement, nous prendrons acte de tout cela et nous mettrons tout en place pour vous apporter cette réduction, bien évidemment. C'est prévu.
D'accord, merci.
Après, pour ajouter peut-être parce que je comprends tout à fait, hein, enfin, maybe I'll do it in English. Okay. So,
Finir en français.
Allez, en français.
Je peux pratiquer.
Après autre chose. Donc, Léon, on comprend tout à fait en fait ce manque, cette frustration que certains peuvent ressentir de ne pas pouvoir être in situ. Et, parce que nous, effectivement, pour nous aussi, c'est un manque, hein. Enfin, il faut le dire, hein. On l'a un petit peu évoqué en tout début, mais effectivement, c'est vraiment quelque chose nous, on vit pour l'expérientiel, hein, effectivement. Donc, en tout état de cause, on a des réflexions pour vous donner la possibilité, quand ce sera possible, de venir. Voilà. Donc, ceux qui n'opteraient pas pour le en ligne, il y a la possibilité de le faire, mais par contre, les dates sont encore, pour nous, difficiles à déterminer. Voilà.
Non, je comprends bien.
Ouais.
D'accord, merci.
Mais sera pas, enfin, on y pense et on fera en sorte que ce soit possible. Voilà.
J'ai juste une question.
Oui.
Est-ce qu'il est possible de faire les deux?
Non, désolée.
Pourquoi?
Désolée, eh bien, tout simplement parce que vous avez fait un choix dans le cadre de votre formation à l'IFG, c'est soit de faire le distanciel si vous le choisissez, soit de faire le présentiel, donc plus tard, pour l'instant on ne connaît pas les dates, mais on ne peut pas faire les deux.
Et il y a aussi une raison pédagogique à ça, qui est que…
Vous allez vous voir des choses, oui, en plus, ça risque d'être un peu redondant pour vous.
Voilà, exactement, c'est une question de redondance, c'est-à-dire que ce qu'on vous a présenté ici, c'est peu ou prou, on va dire, le contenu pédagogique essentiel, d'accord? C'est tout ce qu'on vous propose généralement, sans le côté, évidemment, visite d'entreprise dont on a parlé tout à l'heure, prise de température de ce qu'est San Francisco, ce qu'est la Silicon Valley, in situ. Voilà. Donc, mais tout ce qui est le cœur du programme en termes de contenu, en termes de cours, etc., c'est ça qu'on va vous proposer. Donc, pour des questions aussi, Farial, de redondance à éviter, on ne peut pas doubler la mise.
Ok, merci.
Et excusez-moi, est-ce que vous avez les dates pour le online?
C'est ce que j'allais demander aussi, Marianne. Est-ce qu'on a un peu de précision sur la période où vous souhaitez mettre en place ce online?
Alors ça, c'est une réflexion qui est toujours en cours avec IFG. D'après les nouvelles, on tendrait à faire quelque chose en septembre. Voilà, ce serait septembre. Notamment, c'est encore à confirmer et IFG a plus la main sur cette réflexion-là par rapport à vos exigences de calendrier à vous. Mais on se focaliserait sur septembre. Je sais que pour vous, c'est très important, vous étudiants, vous participants, parce que vous êtes tous sur des cohortes peut-être un peu différentes, sur des parcours qui sont pas forcément toujours synchrones. Il y en a certains qui sont peut-être en fin de parcours, qui sont peut-être en mi-parcours, je ne sais pas trop. Donc je sais que savoir quand ça se place, c'est important, puisque pour vous, certains, il y a des examens qui approchent et quand on est en phase d'examen, on est un peu pris de court, quoi. Je sais, je comprends très bien que… Donc voilà, septembre, 15 jours en septembre, ce sera.
On essaye de voir justement de notre côté, voilà, parmi toutes les cohortes effectivement qui seront présentes, quelle sera la meilleure période, bien évidemment, pour éviter vos présentiels pour ceux qui sont en version blended, parce que nous avons aussi des participants en version blended à Paris. Donc, bien évidemment, il va falloir qu'on trouve le bon timing, la bonne période, le bon moment pour réaliser tout ça, qui ne soit pas trop non plus stressant pour vous si vous avez effectivement des périodes d'examen ou d'autres présentiels, d'autres choses à réaliser importantes. Peut-être une précision, Marianne, si je peux?
Bien sûr.
Je voulais juste te dire que justement, nous allons envoyer avant donc septembre, a priori, un sondage dès la semaine prochaine, donc qui vous concerne, mais qui concerne aussi les autres promotions, les autres cohortes qui ont déjà été informées. Il y en aura encore quelques-unes vendredi. Un sondage qui va nous permettre de voir un petit peu quel est votre souhait. Est-ce que vous vous orientez plutôt sur le distanciel ou plutôt finalement du présentiel en attendant une date plus précise? Et en fonction de ça, donc on sera en mesure de vous dire, je pense que avant septembre, bien évidemment, je pense qu'on aura beaucoup plus de précision pour vous dire exactement sur quelle période tout ça va se dérouler, sachant qu'on essaye de mettre en place tout ça avec un minimum de 15 participants. Pour ne pas avoir un tout petit groupe, ça semble évident que l'interactivité ne peut se faire que si on est un minimum aussi de participants. Donc, on va vous envoyer ce sondage dès la semaine prochaine pour un petit peu vous positionner sur du distanciel plutôt que du présentiel, ou si vous préférez, bien sûr, attendre fin d'année, voire début d'année prochaine.
Ouais. Alors, du coup, ça m'amène à une autre question, s'il vous plaît, parce que là, si vous faites ça en septembre en remote, et que du coup, on ne peut plus aller sur place, comment ça se passe? On a raté la session à distance?
Non, je pense que si de toute façon, si on va le faire en ligne, on ne va pas dire, par exemple, toutes les promos, il y a 90 personnes à la fois, ça ne serait pas possible. Donc, dans ce cas-là, on envisagera une autre session, je pense. Mais
oui, ça.
voilà, donc ça, de toute façon, on va limiter le nombre, comme on fait en présentiel.
D'accord.
J'aimerais bien rebondir sur une chose évoquée par Marianne, et c'est les visites d'entreprise. Donc, je ne veux pas être rabat-joie, mais je veux être réaliste avec vous. Et pour vous parler de comment on va gérer ça, je pense dans un premier temps, donc évidemment pour un programme en ligne, mais même éventuellement les premiers programmes en présentiel à San Francisco, il est grand chance que ça se déroule sans visite en entreprise. Parce que je ne sais pas à quel moment ils vont dire on ouvre nos portes. Parce que de toute façon, aujourd'hui, même les employés, ils sont là, ils sont pas là. Et les grands rassemblements d'employés, de clients et tout ça, ça c'est pas pour demain. Et à quel moment ils vont dire oui, 40 personnes qui viennent d'arriver de l'étranger, on les reçoit chez nous. Je pense que ça peut être après le vaccin, honnêtement. Mais bon, ils travaillent dur sur le vaccin et on espère tous le voir dès que possible. Mais par contre, on va faire comme toutes les entreprises font aujourd'hui. Les personnes, que ce soit les startups ou les corporates, qui sont dans nos réseaux, ils vous rencontreront pour parler de leur travail, de leur expérience, leur culture d'entreprise, comme ça. Donc, c'est le contenu y est. On aime beaucoup le côté expérience, de voir, de sentir. C'est pour ça qu'on a créé ce campus. Mais ça c'est pas pour tout de suite. Ça, c'est mon impression. Après, je peux me tromper. Je préfère vous dire ça comme ça et dire, hop, grand changement au mois de novembre, on a eu le vaccin et janvier, hop, tout est reparti. Je l'espère, mais voilà. Donc, d'une manière ou d'une autre, on vous présente et les experts et les gens dans les entreprises et les startups pour échanger.
J'ai une question. Bonjour, Andy de France. J'ai une question. Si ça on fait par exemple en septembre, est-ce que vous allez penser aux horaires? Parce que bon, il faut savoir qu'on a un peu de décalage horaire chacun. Donc, comment ça va s'organiser par rapport à ça? Et sachant que septembre, ce sera peut-être, là, c'est la période où toutes les entreprises vont reprendre en accéléré. Donc, c'est par rapport à l'organisation, comment ça va se faire?
Horaire, en fait, on a essayé d'aménager nos cours, de proposer des cours qui soient sur des plages horaires qui soient à peu près compatibles à la fois pour vous et pour nous. Enfin, parce qu'on est sur une différence horaire de 9 heures. En fait, là, pour vous, c'est le soir. Pour nous, c'est la fin de matinée. Donc, en fait, comme je disais tout à l'heure, on vous propose des cours qui sont positionnés sur une plage entre 6 heures de l'après-midi, heure française. Donc, il faut voir aussi pour vous, ceux qui sont placés dans peut-être d'autres fuseaux horaires, si c'est compatible. Donc, entre 6 heures du soir, heure française, et 9 heures du soir, donc sur 3 heures. Voilà. Vous voyez ?
18h, 21h, et tu disais pas tous les jours, on est d'accord, Marianne?
Non, on va essayer de faire en sorte que ce soit, mais je ne peux pas vous garantir exactement comment encore ce sera fait. Mais ce sera sur 2 semaines, ça c'est sûr. Et sur ces plages horaires-là, c'est sûr. Du lundi au vendredi, c'est sûr. Savoir après exactement le calendrier exact des jours. Moi, je sais que les étudiants ont beaucoup de priorités, beaucoup de choses à faire entre le travail et les études. Donc, on essaye de faire en sorte que ce soit aussi schedule friendly.
Ouais. Et tenir l'attention de quelques personnes devant un écran pendant 3 heures, c'est pas effectivement toujours évident. Donc, c'est vrai qu'au-delà de 3 heures, ça devient compliqué peut-être.
C'est pour ça que même si on dit 3 heures, c'est possible qu'on essaye de faire que 3 heures, ça peut vouloir dire 2 cours, par exemple, avec une pause au milieu. Voyez, on est aussi sur la réflexion qui est que ce qu'on propose sur le campus, qui sont souvent des ateliers aussi de 3 heures directement, par exemple, pas toujours, hein, on a tout type de cours, enfin en termes de durée, ça varie entre 1 heure et 3 heures pour des ateliers hyper interactifs. Mais alors là, c'est encore la réflexion, ça ne veut pas dire que ça va être 3 heures d'un coup. Ça peut être, on va peut-être réduire, enfin, vous voyez, parce qu'effectivement, on a tout à fait conscience qu'être devant un écran, c'est pas facile, c'est pas la même expérience. Donc ça, ce sont des réflexions sur lesquelles on travaille. Voilà, donc pas s'inquiéter là-dessus. Hein. Il y a un moment pour souffler. Enfin, on sait très bien, nous, c'est ce qu'on fait. On est toujours confinés. Là, vous me voyez, je suis chez moi. Donc, depuis plusieurs mois, on est dans ce cadre-là. Donc, c'est vrai que nous aussi, on travaille en ligne en permanence. On n'est pas du tout déconfinés. Hein. Donc, on sait ce que c'est que de cette expérience en ligne en permanence. Oui. On va la faire la plus interactive et la plus agréable et la plus ludique possible. Parce que pour nous, qui sommes férus de pédagogie, c'est vraiment un point essentiel. Hein. C'est pas quelque chose, c'est vraiment une base de la réflexion. C'est-à-dire comment est-ce qu'on peut faire en sorte que ce soit efficace, à la fois aussi ludique, interactif, le plus dynamique possible. Voilà.
Quand on dit interactif, c'est aussi, comme vous savez bien, sur Zoom, on peut faire des petits groupes de travail. C'est aussi en utilisant les outils que les startups et les entreprises utilisent aujourd'hui, comme Mural. Donc, ça, c'est un tableau blanc virtuel. Et nos professeurs ont des Canva sur quoi vous pouvez travailler, sur des projets et mettre en place les méthodologies que vous apprenez avec eux. Donc, ça peut être le Business Model Canvas, ça peut être d'autres qui sont vraiment des choses importantes, des outils importants dans la boîte à outils Silicon Valley. Donc, un équilibre entre cours, questions, discussions, mais aussi de travail de style atelier.
J'ai pas encore posé une question.
Mais bien sûr.
Ouais. Je voulais savoir aussi, Marianne, est-ce que ces cours sont destinés à être enregistrés?
Oui.
Ok. Donc visibles en replay ensuite si on veut revoir, etc. Mais uniquement réservés aux participants qui sont inscrits dans ce groupe.
Oui.
On est d'accord.
Après, comme on disait, il y a le facteur aussi de présence qui est important pour nous.
Assiduité, bien
Et
sûr.
aussi pour vous, hein, puisque ça faisait partie des conversations qu'on avait eues avec IFG, donc c'est important. On peut regarder en replay, mais il faut être présent quand même.
Il faut être présent, bien sûr, oui, puisque le certificat au bout. Okay.
Voilà.
Un aspect qui peut aider aussi, parce que c'est des cours qui sont en anglais, et donc vous avez des niveaux, je pense, assez hétérogènes en termes d'anglais. Nos professeurs, ils sont extrêmement ouverts. Donc ça, c'est dans le style de Silicon Valley d'ailleurs. Donc que ça soit une idée pour un startup, c'est d'être ouvert et partager ses idées pour les améliorer, pour avoir des retours de d'autres personnes. Et dans ce cas-là, les professeurs, ils partagent tout leur support. Donc ça, c'est des gens qui écrivent des livres, qui ont des choses que j'ai vues dans d'autres endroits dans le monde où les gens, ils sont assez réticents de partager. Donc, voilà, donc non, ça c'est mes diapos, je ne partage pas avec vous. Ça, vous n'allez pas voir une fois avec nos intervenants. Donc, les diapos sont mises à disposition après le cours, comme ça, vous pouvez revoir ce que vous venez de vivre avec eux.
Est-ce qu'il y a quelques questions encore? N'hésitez pas. Hein.
Moi, j'ai une question sur la date limite, si c'était en présentiel. Est-ce qu'il y a, à partir jusqu'à quand on pourrait éventuellement envisager un présentiel et à partir de quel moment, à partir de quelle date, ça sera plus dans le cursus et... Je ne sais pas si ma question est claire, mais
si.
Si c'était en 2022, du coup...
On l'a prévu, on l'a envisagé. Je pense que c'est ça, Marianne. Même si c'est en dehors du cursus IFG, vous pourrez bien sûr réaliser ce séminaire, bien sûr.
Nous sommes campus satellite de InsecU et nous sommes au cœur de la Silicon Valley, l'agilité. Donc, on sera agile. On sera agile, adapté, à proposer. Comme je disais tout à l'heure, je pense qu'on reviendra aussi avec plus d'informations à la rentrée. On saura un peu mieux comment cette situation évolue. Et donc, voilà, donc s'il faut repousser, on repoussera. Mais je sais que pour certaines personnes, c'est aussi important qu'on puisse assurer une continuité pédagogique et dans le même calendrier que
oui, je comprends, mais
vous avez envisagé.
Tous les éléments pour prendre la décision, quoi.
Ouais. Exactement, oui, tout à fait. Si vous préférez venir plus tard attendre, c'est tout à fait recevable, évidemment.
Très bien.
Voilà. Après, ça ne veut pas dire forcément, parce que ça, je sais que c'est un facteur pour vous, pour certains en tout cas, que vous serez avec vos cohortes.
Oui.
Vous voyez, parce que souvent, je sais que, enfin, on le vit nous aussi quand on vous reçoit, et c'est d'ailleurs un facteur qui est hyper agréable, mais on sait que pour vous, c'est enfin la façon de vous retrouver, alors que vous êtes en groupe, en ligne souvent, et que vous connaissez à peine. Et puis là, c'est vraiment la semaine où vous vous croisez, et puis il y a vraiment des amitiés qui se nouent et tout ça. Donc ça veut pas dire, étant donné la situation est très exceptionnelle et que l'idée de repousser, du coup aménager ça par rapport à des temporalités qui sont différentes, c'est-à-dire par exemple toi Franck, je tutoie, hein.
Pas de souci.
Tu veux venir en 2022, peut-être que tes camarades qui veulent faire du présentiel aussi voudront venir avant, j'en sais rien. Enfin, tu vois,
oui, j'ai bien compris.
Aménager, on ne sait pas trop comment ça c'est une question à laquelle on n'a pas eu encore la possibilité de réfléchir trop comment, mais c'est fort probable que vous ne soyez pas mélangés avec vos camarades. Voilà.
Mais ma question, c'était surtout vis-à-vis de l'IFG, s'il y avait des contraintes en termes de cursus. Parfois, il peut y avoir voilà,
Non,
un
mais
impératif, étant donné qu'on a un cursus bien défini d'un point de vue, je sais pas, responsabilité. Enfin, je sais pas ce qu'il peut y avoir.
après, ça ne rentre pas, Franck, dans le cursus universitaire de la
D'accord.
Sorbonne. Donc, c'est détaché complètement de cela. Donc, il n'y a
Ok.
aucun souci pour le faire plus tard. Et comme l'a dit Ron, on sera très agile là-dessus.
Très bien, merci. Très bien.
On a des
Excusez-moi.
fois des anciens participants hein, qui viennent.
Excusez-moi.
Voilà, donc c'est pas un problème. Oui.
Oui. Excusez-moi, si j'ai bien saisi l'explication tout à l'heure, c'est-à-dire on peut le faire en dehors à la fin de notre cursus MBA après la soutenance, c'est ça?
Oui, tout à fait. Tout à fait, Patrick.
OK. OK. Merci bien.
Avec plaisir. D'autres questions? N'hésitez pas. Non?
Martinia, je vois que on n'entend pas, mais je vois le cadre jaune. Non? Si c'est toutes les questions que vous avez pour le moment, on vous remercie. On remercie Marianne pour la présentation.
Merci à vous.
Merci à vous tous d'avoir y assisté. Pour les questions, vraiment par rapport à vos parcours et les coûts, donc ça c'est évidemment entre vous et l'IFG. Pour les questions de cours et de contenu à San Francisco, n'hésitez pas à contacter Marianne et moi-même.
Tout à fait. Moi,
Merci.
Sur la première slide que vous recevrez.
et vous allez retrouver le replay de cet enregistrement donc en replay sur votre plateforme Blackboard avec les slides que déjà Ron et Marianne nous ont confiés. Donc, vous allez retrouver tout cela dès demain sur la plateforme. Voilà, pour le revoir.
Du coup, vous revenez vers nous quand à peu près avec un peu plus d'informations?
La semaine prochaine, on vous envoie déjà un sondage pour voir comment vous vous positionnez. Et en fonction des réponses, nous serons, je pense, d'ici le 15 juillet déjà en mesure de voir combien de personnes se sont positionnées sur du distanciel et voir comment on organise tout ça avec Ron et son équipe. Ouais. On revient très vite vers vous.
Merci.
Je pense donc, pour moi, juste pour finir, pour résumer, évidemment, on est déçus, mais par rapport à cette situation que nous ne contrôlons pas, mais en même temps, on est déterminé. Donc, et on est confiant parce qu'on a l'expérience maintenant et en présentiel et à distance. Donc, confiant de la qualité de cette expérience dans les deux cas. Et voilà, donc on reste à votre disposition si vous avez des questions après. Parce que je sais, c'est des grandes décisions, c'est des décisions importantes et pas forcément faciles. Donc, n'hésitez pas à nous recontacter.
Ouais. Et pour ma part, c'était un plaisir de vous rencontrer, comme on dit. Et j'espère vous voir bientôt, que ce soit virtuellement ou en présentiel. Et d'ici là, je vous souhaite une excellente soirée et puis une bonne continuation.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci à tous pour votre présence.
Au revoir.
Merci, bonne soirée.
Au revoir.
Bonne soirée.
Bonne soirée, bonne journée à vous, Marianne et Ron.
Merci beaucoup, Emmanuel.
Au revoir.
Merci.
Au revoir.